such a great impact, but
yeah,
Curse kept balling up in those fights, so Riven is more than happy to do all the AoE damage that she needs to. And these bans, a little bit slower than last game.
A little bit slower than finally the Kassadin ban comes out, and if there's one mid laner that would like embody the Void Boy that everyone knows from 2012 and put him into a mid lane, it's Kassadin, highly mobile assassin based right there. So, and besides, again, failed to ban Kassadin once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Okay, we've gone through that a couple of times, but yeah, no surprise. The AP COG again away from Zamfira. And now, you know, Cognitive should have the contested pick they want, and it's Sivir this time around.
Sivir's usually combined with that Karma with a few other speed ups, so we'll have to see. Shyvana's on the board, Renekton's on the board, so that trifecta besides Mundo. Or no, Mundo is up. Sorry, it was Nasus that was banned out. So that full trifecta is up.
Yeah, so if I'm COG, like my dream comp is like Mundo, Shyvana, Leona, or Annie. They'll probably run Leona here, and then like whatever the heck you want for mid, it doesn't even matter at that point.
Mundo's
because
good,
they'll 4v5.
but they didn't really have any way to get into a fight. Nobody could follow Quas. Mundo walks through people.
Yeah.
Quas dives to the back line and dies in the back line.
Yeah, again, that was I think a mistake in champs like by Curse, where they had Nidalee who just didn't fit what the rest of that team wanted to do. And the more we saw that game, the more it kind of looked that way, unless certain very specific things went Curse's way. So Curse says, okay, they knew the Sivir first pick was coming when looking at this sort of lineup here. The problem is you can bully a Sivir out of lane in the 2v2. She's not the strongest laner. The Mundo Shyvana instead gets stolen by Curse. I like that choice right there because that's definitely what COG was going to look for.
Chris will have Renekton to play in the top lane. I'm sure he'll have fun with that. But again, we do have speed coming into this game. Everybody's got kind of a mobile speed boost, the steroid. So it's going to be definitely a chase, kite and fight game.
Yeah, it's going to be the interesting thing because normally you're like, all right, yeah, I want to play Sivir with a bunch of bruisers so I can get them in there and kill the backline. That's why I said Mundo Shiv would be the ideal picks here for COG. So instead, they run something a little bit similar. Right, there's the Leona they wanted. I expect that to actually come through right here. The Lulu as well actually is so good at synergizing with further frontliners. But also, you've got Sivir to disengage. To take the other sort of side of this, you've got the Sivir to disengage away from the I have to walk at you bruisers like Shiv and Mundo. So in either situation here, in this meta where both top and jungle tend to be bruisers, Sivir is really powerful.
I think the Zekent always hovers on Lulu. I don't know if it just kind of like gets him relaxed and refreshed. He always has a smile on his face, but he'll always just hover on that Lulu for a second. We got to know him as the guy who plays the outrageous stuff. So he may actually lock it in one of these things.
It's like the Rayman hovering on Teemo. I mean, he was going to pick it eventually, but like just in general, you see that come through and you're like, yeah, I know it's what you want to play. We'll see if it happens. Cutie Pie with Heimerdinger. It's fun to have the signature champions come out there. So, yeah, the Leona engage, again, worked so well for COG last time. Get into the fights, make things happen. Love it. It's a good choice. The Elise coming through is interesting.
Yeah, gets through this game.
Because she's a good champion, but she's all about early pressure and saying, okay, after we get that early game lead, we'll continue through. But Elise doesn't scale as hard as someone like Mundo, Shyvana, Olaf, etc. So, right now, Curse could say, we can wait a little bit more late game, and that would work for them.
They could be going for a little bit more objective focus here. As Kobe always says, Elise is good at taking dragon with her little spiders. So they have that now. They actually shied away from the dragons wholly in the beginning of last game. But then we're able to take those objectives. We'll see, though. A good team coming out of Curse Cop. Draven has been played today by Sneaky, so they may look to bring that back out, and he does. So like Draven. So the aggression coming out from Cop this game for sure.
Yeah, so 100% call right here. Curse wants to 2v2 that lane. Sivir is just not a good AD carry versus AD carry duelist. She loses, I think, almost every 1v1 matchup I can think of, both in laning phase and in team fights. And when you're Draven Thresh, you win pretty much every 2v2 no matter what the enemy champions are. So this is Curse looking for that matchup. We'll see if they can find it. 2v1 would definitely be in COG's favor right now. And now the thought is, because they played a very smart champ select last time in terms of thinking about lane matchups and everything else, is, okay, well, now they have actually run Sivir mid before, so they could run double AD and find a new matchup as well, which is what happened. Yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry, I'm like trailing as champ select goes on, but another amazing adaptation here. Sivir mid. The Lucian actually survives the lane a lot better than Sivir does, and they could actually fight the 2v2 now.
I was saying, I'm like, Void Boy is definitely going to see what they have mid and counter it, but now he's probably like, damn, I'm just going to play what I want to play now.
Yep. So, but again, this is actually not too bad. Sivir is not a very strong mid lane. She's all right. She pushes all right, but it's not Ziggs, right? Yeah. Void's going to have a lot more breathing room than last game. And with that in mind, I think it gives some more breathing room for Curse to say, okay, what kind of comp do we really want? Don't worry about the lane matchup. I mean, if you really want to try, you can, but Elise is so scary. Instead, get a real team comp together that has one big focus. Curse's lineup looks aggressive. Something like Orianna would work well here. Gragas, again, another good option for a strong mid laner with good damage who can engage fights.
Voyboy knows Gragas. Voyboy played Gragas in top lane.
Yeah, true.
Voyboy can play Gragas. He may not play Gragas, though. So as they hover around champions, we see that Ziploc gets his Vi once again, and that was huge for them last game. The double initiation coming in, he would always bop somebody up with his assault and battery as he went through, making sure he got to the back line. You can't put it past Voyboy either. Curse has been a team known to use Vladimir for on occasion.
So this is going to be interesting. It's not what I expected to see come out of the lineup because you've got a lot of very different things battling here. So once again, Curse don't have any hard engage. They've got two bruisers who can kind of run into the front lines but can get kited back. So Curse are like the reactive team. They can siege okay with Draven and Vlad, but they're kind of waiting for COG to come into them and say, well, we'll just outstat you when it happens.
Team amplify damage.
Yeah, absolutely, and that could be really, really strong. And in fact, I want to see if Voy goes Leandry's Vlad, because when you're fighting a lot of generally tanky guys, Leandry's going to give you some pretty good damage up, but when you've got a bunch of melee dudes in your face. And so I'm curious to see what build that ends up being from Voy. So high damage from Curse. COG on the other side, very, very similar lineup here. Hard engage from multiple places. They've got Chris for that cool top lane Elise that we see him play once in a while. Interesting team.
So we're looking for COG now versus Curse. We're going into game 2. This is the last spot in the LCS. Curse is fighting to get this back, but like we said, completely retooled. They have a new team. Voyboy now in mid. Cop, the longest standing member on the ADC, so he holds the veterancy there. Don't know if the shot calls are coming from him. That's usually not the way it is. But they are stage ready, I feel, with those guys. They know a little bit more about playing on the big stage. Like we said, COG was kind of in and out at PAX. They've played other events, so it's like as the analogy of being dipped into the pool and taken out when you're learning to swim. They're playing amazing, but can they hold out a best of 5? A lot of teams don't get the chance to play best of 5 all the time.
That's true, and sometimes you can just you get worn down by playing big series, and it even happens in the LCS seasons as well. When you're there for a couple of hours, if you're playing more than one match in that day, you've got to play at the beginning, play at the end, and your mental fortitude is actually an important sort of like personal statistic for playing pro-level League of Legends properly. It's a real thing here for these guys. Curse gonna have that much more. COG, we'll see. It's gonna be their first really long series that's the highest pressure for them as well.
All right, locking it back down on the Rift for COG versus Curse, and we are into game 2. This is a best of 5 here. Last game, we kind of knew not halfway through, but towards the end, we were saying Curse thinking about the next game. What are they going to do? They know they have to start building momentum from here. How are they going to do it?
So early game is freaking important because they don't have good playmaking from mid to late game. They've got to be stronger by the time late game comes around, whether because their 5v5 just is better, and if you look at the lineups, I'm not sure that's necessarily true. But they've got to be really strong by the time late game comes around. The difficulty being that it's hard to gank for Shyvana, no CC. Mudo's not the best ganker, hard to gank for Voyboy as well. So my attention goes down to that Cop Z-Kent duo lane. That's where I see Curse putting a lot of their attention, getting those guys ahead, getting Draven gigantic and saying, League of Draven guys, 1v9, win the game. That's what I see Curse's goal being.
Looks like they won't get the 2v2 matchup that they want. It is going to be the swap around. And it is not an invade by Curse this time. Like we said, Curse didn't put down wards last time. They were just kind of brush checking, walking back out, and it was COG that laid down the same line of scrimmage they are now. So just staying tried and true to what they did last time. It worked. They're going to do it again.
Absolutely. These guys are going to play reasonably safely. COG is going to feel a lot more confident now and are going to look to take, I think, less risks throughout the early game. In the rest of the series, if they keep doing as well as they did in Game 1, they have no reason to risk their games on a level 1 because they can just win the games with team fights. Curse, though, I think if they believe that level 1 is a fluke, again, they're not going to go high risk either because they'll think they can outskill their opponents. So in both cases, these guys, very safe level 1s, and then we're going to see how the scaling kicks in. Flash is so powerful, guys. Even if you don't bring it in summoner spells, the minions have it.
Let's see what they got for mid lane. Voyboy, Zamfira.
What? They groaned because they got minion particles back. But I like seeing Flash every game, really.
We already have Flash every game. We'll see if Zamfira can take down this mid lane. COG is still, or COG rather, Chris is getting some help along with these spiders as they trade off some XP. And Ziploc made an early presence last game. Looks like COG is going to play this one a little differently, though. They are not just pushing it into the turret, so they are adapting, and they did learn from mistake very early last game.
Yes, indeed. So here we go. No crazy mistakes happening. Guys setting up for their lanes. I want to see what happens with these 2v1s. Chris actually, Quas taking a very long time to get back, and this is what happened last time actually for COG. Is Quas was missing from the lane at the beginning because he helped take one buff and then walked down and soaked up all the XP on the first wave. This time around, he didn't. He took a bunch more camps, and COG basically called the bluff and shoved into the lane early, and that entire 12 minion wave died to the turret with no one around. That's actually really rough for Quas here.
This is definitely a little bit more extended. If you remember, Voidboy, I believe it was on the summer split, you know, he would be put in this situation and we'd see him go do Wolves and just hang out for 2 waves and say, it's all right, you're not going to get the 2 waves, go away for it. But yeah, they went all the way to the Siege wave, and he's still not over there. Now returning.
It's coming down like in the middle of the Ken wave, that third wave of minions. Now, to be fair, he did get level 2 off of the jungle itself. He got the Wraith camp, he helped get a couple other camps with Dominate. And so, to be honest, even though you don't see Quas in lane for a while, he's actually still in decent shape. It's always weird when you're like, there's no one here at the turret. He's just taking damage and no one's chilling out here.
It gets a little complacent, too. We actually saw it happen to Cop and Zken earlier. We saw a very fast come down from Ziploc on that Vi gank, and they were almost able to get it if Chris was on Riven in the last game. But everybody's playing it very much different this game. Curse a little bit more not to lose this one. Cognitive is definitely working off their momentum for the win.
Absolutely here, and I actually like the way COG are playing almost all of their lanes. You talked about the dual lane a second ago. From Curse, these guys are doing it pretty much properly, and actually this is an interesting choice as we stay on this dual lane. So Curse are trying more to deny Chris than to actually create global pressure from killing the turret off. Now, outer turrets are worth less gold this season than last season. It's about 600 instead of 750. So choosing to deny instead of push has a little bit more sort of relative value than before. And if they can make Quas beat Chris in the mid game, which failed last time, that's a new advantage that Curse has for game 2.
Dominate quickly, going back and squeezing on some boots of his big Mundo feet. He wants to get around and snowball these lanes. He was a big presence for Quas last time, but it doesn't seem like they're able to really put that out just yet. We're 5 minutes in, still not seeing that action. The gold lead is really only a difference of a few minions back and forth, and that's coming from those top lanes.
Basically here, so no crazy action, no super awesome like Hella Summoner spells burned on both sides. It's like Curse and COG both jump at each other in the 2v2 lanes. So instead it's watching the lane matchups play out. And Zamfira again is in the more aggressive lane, but that happens with a low level ladder. Instead, here comes Dominate. You can spell the next
they
one.
do throw on the ghost. Voidboy is just on the backside. If they can start hitting that was a big cleaver. They do. The barrier comes out. Turn it around. Ziploc just on the outside, and they're not able to re-engage.
I want to know what Zamfira actually spell shielded, because he didn't have it up for the cleavers at all. And I don't know, to me, if you're like fighting a Vlad, spell shielding his spells isn't really that important. It's more worth watching for the jungle ganks, and losing your summoner spells on a Mundo gank is pretty rough. He knew he was pushing the whole time.
Definitely waiting for the spell shield. It did not come up the barrier first. So using that in lane, but he still keeps himself safe. Ziploc there to be a friend. 6 minutes in, we do see our first bit of interaction with the junglers. Dominate is going to be hanging down on the bottom lane, soon to probably soak up some of this experience as the turret comes. Yeah,
so here we go. He's going to look for this one. Quas is actually high enough level there that they can do a pretty good job in this fight. It's 5-5 versus 5-5 here. Not a lot of CC from Curse, though, so it's really just kind of saying, look, let's hold the turret alive. Again, with Curse's own dual lane looking to deny some gold from Chris, and that man only has 15 minion kills. Curse wants to extend this laning phase a bit longer, build up some more adoration on Cop, make Chris really useless in the mid game, and then transition their own mid game into some strong fights for Curse.
Voidboy seeming to fare a little bit better. There's not a huge difference in CS here, but he is able to push Zamfira off, and pretty much just those single engages here. He's getting the Tides of Blood on Spell Shield, so the Transfusion is going to be doing more damage every time.
Yeah, so Voidboy's really just trying to push the lane back out there. Like, now that he's level 6 or so, he's got enough ranks in his abilities that his Transfusion heals decently. He can actually afford to use Tides of Blood and not run out of health doing so.
Kill yourself. Don't.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah, can he ult? Can he W the ult? Actually, there's no ult, so yeah, he's fine.
Never mind. Hanging.
I was like, where's the assault and battery? Oh, he's 5. Okay. So I have good eyesight. But yeah, it's like honestly, you're not going to gank a Vlad very easily. Neither of the mid laners are good gank follow-up. They just bring damage.
Right.
And until 6, neither jungler puts that much pressure on either. So it's like, hey, get off that minion line. Okay, come back.
And we're still, from this composition, we talked about it a little bit in Champion Select, is the lack of initiation coming from Curse. It's all really walk-up initiation if they can get to it. So whatever moves they have to do has to be a pre-set up pincer move or an objective fight that I don't think COG's going to walk willingly into.
Yeah, so to me, Curse is looking for dragons, split pushes, which again they're setting up for. They're trying to deny Chris and camp for Quas to get him into a good shape, and that can create pressure as well. Or they basically look for dragons and barons otherwise, which their team is actually pretty well suited to killing. They have Mundo and Draven there who are going to have really good persistent damage on targets like Baron. And then when COG shows up, they turn it around and go for the fight. I think that kind of situation can work. But Curse has to come out of this early game in a strong situation. If they are, then they're okay to play that kind of game mode, but they have very few options to create opportunities.
Looking at COG's composition again, you see that they really hover around. It's not even that much of AoE because they had Ziggs last time, but that 1 AP. They like more AD, and they like to hover around 1 AP. They're leaving it on Chris. Last time it was Zemphira, so it seems interesting about their comp. We'll see if Game 3 they reflect that again.
It's good for them to always choose a mix of damage output. You never want to run five physical damage champions. It's really weak if you do it. It's very easy to counterpick. You can pretty much go first item random ones in every champion and then just kind of win automatically. That said, though, Elise still doesn't scale that hard into late game. Even though she does percent health damage, even though he's on a solo lane kind of farm, it's just Elise just doesn't do something like what Ziggs would do or Vlad would do in a team fight. It's just that's not the same level of damage. So even with all that said, Curse can still build a heavy stack of armor and be in decent shape for team fights.
Quas eats 2 turret shots right there. A little hungry on aggression, getting antsy. Dominate follows to the bottom lane. He knows if any chance is best, it's now, and they do the Dragon's Descent. Will the Cleaver go over? It does hit nothing here, but he's able to flash, get a nice shot back as well, and Zane King doing a little bit of support.
It's just actually really good turn of events for Curse because they got the first turret, they got some summoners burned out of nothing here as well, and with a couple of recalls pretty much forced soon, Curse could also rotate down to the bottom lane because the dual lane for COG is no health right now.
Chris mashing out the keys. He's not doing too much damage yet. Still very early in the game for him, and he's only got the Giant's belt. It's the same buy for Quas. It looks like these guys may just repeat what they did last time. Quas gets hit up 1, 2, 3 on the consecutive stuns. Very well played by Zane. The barrier comes up, but it's not going to be enough, and Quas turns it around.
Incredibly well played right there by Quas. Knew he couldn't really run away from it. Went for the fight as well. Void!
Oh, just on the outside. Can he get it? Throws down the Hemo Plague. It's going to be the pool. 20% of his HP. It's not going to be enough to get him to dead, but Zamfira runs off of that attack, and it looks like they may want more as Dominate is just on the outside of this one, and he decides not to go in.
So I gotta say, amazing play by Quas right there. The barrier was a quarter second too late by nothing here. He already took the Twin Fang, the double bite right there from Quas's Q. And at that point, barrier lasts 2 seconds, Ignite lasts 5. You're gonna take an Ignite tick, you're gonna go down. And there you go. Dual lane is gone, Pros with the free dragon.
All right, so after grabbing up that first blood, very well played by Quas. They are gonna be able to get Dragon. This happened for them last game, so they're kind of keeping it in stride. We'll see if COG can do the same thing here. Wait it out, keep their mentality in, and push back.
Yeah, but I think this is actually a much better setup for Curse right here. The early lead here for Curse means a lot more than it did in the last game. Also a more substantial early game lead. So Curse definitely looking a lot better than game 1, even though still COG has the ability to pick fights, I think, better than Curse can. So there's more comeback potential, I think, on the blue side.
Wow, piecing together Void Boy. Looks like he's got Spell Vamp and his Seeker's Arm Guard on that, or having the Revolver, I should say. Excuse me.
So Void's looking to lane pretty heavy right here. He's kept up pretty well in minions despite being pushed into his turret so much early game, and now Void has so much sustain and really so little pressure from the enemy lanes as well. As long as he can keep that mid lane outer turret alive, it's very hard for Void to die. He can keep farming forever. And again, I think actually Curse would outscale in this game. Curse can actually say, look, keep the early game lead so we don't get jumped on, continue to cold dragons, then just get too big for our opponents to deal with. We can just buy Randuin's Omens and survive the double AD comp.
Oh, he got the minion real good on that one. Cop does flash and barrier, though. Big antsy on the fingers.
Yeah, not necessarily quite what was needed. He's actually going to...
Everybody's flashing.
Lot of abilities used. These guys really looking for fights right here, but none of them found. It's all right. Everyone's fine.
Oh, I guess Zane King just got pushed there. He didn't get flashed out,
Yeah.
so he saved it.
All right.
See Vi coming down into the mid lane. Zip block just on the outside. Voyboy, once he gets that Zhonya's, it's going to be quite tricky. We've seen a lot of champions that haven't been seen in a while played, so approaching the situation becomes more difficult when you can go invincible twice.
Yeah, exactly. So the purpose of ganks on this mid lane aren't actually to kill Voyboy because he won't die.
Yeah.
It's to push him out of the lane, actually. Because you've got a double AD team, and what they do so well is power spike around 15 minutes before major defensive items are really completed, especially on squishier champions like Vlad or the junglers who don't build any armor yet, and get turrets for it. Now, Curse already took that top lane turret from their own duo lane, but the mid lane turret's very low. Zenfira has pushed Voi's turret below half. The bottom lane turret as well, very similar situation here, which is why Curse is spending so much effort putting their team down here to protect this, like, almost impending Lucian Leona push.
The laning phase definitely going longer in this game. With the turret already being down, there still is very slow pushing happening in every one of these lanes. Less roaming than we still would have thought coming from Zenfira and Voyboy. It's really going to be, like you said, about these fights for the teams. They're not trying to do too much but hold the laning phase steady.
And here we go, the first 2v2 we're actually going to see in this match. This is actually very important to see how the AD carries stack up, because last game, Jinx just outperformed Lucian pretty heavily, and I think he had a much better time of it. So Cop, though, has the Bloodthirster done. Same here for nothing here. And basically, this is an important battle, because if COG wins it, they get a turret, and they control this side of the map for the next dragon.
Getting a little aggressive onto Voyboy. He's safe under the turret, possibly. Dominate coming around the other side. Very nice read on the pings. He made sure he was there instantly. They are going to be able to get the turret. Chemo play goes down. Here comes Quas from the side. He's just out of enough to do his ultimate, and it looks like they get out safe. That could have been very big for Curse.
That absolutely could have been good choice there by Zenfira to pop the Sivir ulti. Problem is now Curse is so low on health, or sorry, COG's so low on health, Curse gets to counter push what was otherwise a really good choice by COG, but it's going to go 1-for-1. Even though COG had a significant turret health lead, it's just an equivalent trade, which is still better for Curse here.
Very quick pressure there. Those few pings lead to the mid turret, and that was really COG's move. Curse was just ready to counter.
Exactly. That was a good set of rotations right there. Well played overall by Voy and Dominate, just to buy a little bit of time, get the team in there, and then just pull the rotations down to get the counter push. And because they got some damage onto those guys from COG, they made them leave the lane and just leave that opening here. COG still has some other turrets they can pressure. They can still dodge the 2v2 lane and push something with Jinx, or sorry, with Lucian, or they need to actually win that 2v2 matchup with a jungle gang.
Where do they want to go from here? Let's take stock. 15 minutes looking at these inventories. The death going on to nothing here. Remember, Quaz doing a 2v1 in the bottom lane to grab that up. This turret may be going down as well. It's going to be good gold going in the favor of COG. It puts the turrets at 2, and the gold is about 1,000, 2,000 now behind.
And there we go. So COG finally getting themselves back in a little bit more. They finally took the outer turret down. Dragon in a minute and a half, though, is I think really the important next tell. I don't imagine guys really trying to force things much later than now until Dragon comes up. In-lane fights are fine as long as the teams have ward coverage. Problem is, Curse don't know anywhere Vi might be.
All the wards. Curse seems to place the ward unless they know they want to go for something. They don't go too deep on those wards. They got the mid turret, so they felt safe pressuring those Wraith wards. But as of right now, they just keep themselves on their side. It seems to be working at this point. Looking for Ziploc on the side, and they're not going to get anything out of it.
They're really not right now, honestly. They're looking for it. Like, the 3v3 is okay. It would actually be pretty decent from Leona Lucian overall. It's not a bad fight. You've got a lot of burst right there. You can bring down a squishy target. It's really on Curse to play it properly to get out of that battle. But COG starting to unlock the map. 2 turret kills on both sides. I really want to see how the top lane matchup plays out, though, because we haven't seen these guys fight yet. And that's going to be another very important battle, is can Quas out-sustain Chris harass and win that fight? Because the team that has the better top laner gets to basically use that to create openings.
Things going down towards the Dragon from both teams right now. They already have pink ward coverage on the side of Curse. Looks like that actually has just gone away. There we go. Placing out of the second one.
And Curse is in really better shape right now. You have seen that Curse hasn't come down until just now, right on the Dragon respawn. If Curse knows this, it's a 5v4. They can just sit there and face tank and say, you won't fight us, you don't have enough people.
Another turret, yeah, big turret in their favor. Another Dragon in their favor. Yes, the smite does not go to Ziploc. He cues in and flashes out as they get their best attempt on grabbing that dragon. So 25,000 to 22 now. Curse slowly building their lead, but they're acting on things this game. They're not patiently waiting for COG to come to them this time.
And it's smart of Curse to go for dragons the second they spawn. They've got them timed out. They know to set up before it ever spawns, make sure they're already there to deal damage when it does come up, start flapping its wings. Because Curse needs to just keep pushing these gold leads as quickly as possible and basically strangle all the options away from COG. COG are kind of still waiting for something to do, and Curse aren't giving them any openings.
Only a few sweepers picked up a little bit ago as the trinkets really overused in this one. So many wards on the map. Quaz finding himself a little out here. Used the Dragon's Descent, but he gets the Vault Breaker, Assault and Battery to come in on the follow-up. And it looks like he may be going down here, though. No, he's getting away. It's going to be one last flash. He does not have it. And Quaz walks himself out in style.
That was really, really close right there. I think it was the right choice by COG to look for kills right there and snowball people ahead. At the very least, it does give some map control here. But the dominant rotation here...
They gotta know.
Yeah.
He's not going to stay with that low health.
Yeah, okay. Good attempted bait there by Quas. No one bites it. It's going to be these guys being safe. But yeah, that's the kind of plays that these guys need to make. COG have two real initiators that they can use to keep looking for plays. That's the kind of stuff we need from COG here. And 18 minutes in, they still hadn't found one. That's not a good thing for these guys. They've got to use those initiations, those ultimates, those abilities to get in and start turning the map to their side, because slowly but surely Curse keep taking dragons, they keep getting minion kill leads, and it's not going to stop unless COG makes them stop.
Trying to see what's stopping Ziploc and Zane King really from trying to get their initiations on this time. They've been going into fights. Zane King's flash, or Ziploc's rather, was down from that dragon engagement, and they did try to go top. But not much is coming into their favor this time. It seems Curse is adapting a little bit better and has definitely changed their play style from last game.
Absolutely. Their comp makes at least a little bit more sense for the champions.
Yeah,
at least all have the same
helps.
idea. And they're playing the map a lot smarter. They're not giving up nearly as many kills. They haven't gotten any team fights, so I guess they couldn't have had the, like, Quas goes one way, other team goes the other way whole thing. But yeah, COG have really just stalled out, and it's just they're just kind of letting Curse play the Scale of Vlad into Infinity game, which is perfectly fine for Curse here.
COG picking up a lot of wards. Double Bloodthirster for Zamfira, and nothing here means they have good sustain for themselves in the fight. And not as much peel is going to be necessary for those two. We'll see if it's going to be Zane King and Ziploc to grab the deaths up for the team once again. Dominate hovering around in mid, and right now Curse is really just showing themselves. They're not showing COG that they're going to have any pressure, and this may be the time when they plateau again and COG finds their way back.
It could be, really. I mean, honestly, the opportunity does exist for this COG lineup. Bloodthirster is done on Lucian. He's going towards that Trinity Force. Like, he's going to power spike pretty well. Draven's already kind of hit, I would say, one of his peaks right there, where, yep, you've got a full stack Bloodthirster level 9. All right, Draven is as powerful as he's ever going to get without getting any champion kills and spiking up ahead of other people in items. If COG gets a kill, like, onto Cop right here, right, they remove a bunch of Adoration stacks, they get a kill off onto a squishy champion, they can start moving around and using the map to their advantage. But, you know, now that Assault and Battery's back up for Ziploc, let's see what he looks for.
Very, very slow game compared to last game. We only have one kill on the board right now. Hard hats are completely on for both of these teams. And from going to the momentum of wanting to win, I think not wanting to lose is really on these teams' mind. It slows the game down, you play so much more cautious, and the risks are only for objectives, and that's what we're seeing. Dominate, a little bit of damage here, but he should be able to pinch in Chris. This is what we said they need to do. Come from the side, but it seems to be completely countered in. The execute, but it's not going to be enough on the regen. Oh my god, he lives, and it's going to be Quaz going on the 2v1 now. But here comes Zamfira as they come out of the woodwork. He is not able to get the kill, but everyone lives.
And Chris had to be really careful about this dive. I think it's going to miss. Nice try, though. It was a good lead. He was pretty close to his team. But nope, nothing picked up. That's pretty much the sound Draven makes when he throws axes. It's a good one.
Good catch, too.
All right, nice try. But yeah, and I like that from both sides. I think that was a little bit over-ambitious from I Will Dominate. He gave up an early kill last game from doing something like that, getting a little bit too aggressive. But COG are doing a good job of rotating around and getting their teammates into positions, getting in there for fights. The problem is that the Cursed champions aren't getting pressured before they get big. Dominate was getting jumped on with like most of a Randuin's and a like Ninja Tabby and an Ancient Golem. Like, that's not an easy to kill champion. Quas the same way, has completed items, got a Sunfire Cape now already. You don't chase those guys down easily.
That was a full barrier shot from one catch axe there. Cop's a little big right now, and he can definitely dish that damage out if he's the first one to hit nothing here. Nothing here if that situation is in his favor, though. These guys can both kill each other. It's an outplay situation.
And right now, COG are reading pressure onto the bottom lane by Curse. You're seeing I Will Dominate come down, but 4 members of COG already en route as well. They could get a surround on Cop if he doesn't see it coming.
All right, with that HP, nothing here can't win the matchup. Right now, he's playing it safe, keeping himself in the back line, and the hover is coming in from Zane King, but he has seen a very nice sweeper put out there to make sure that his AD carry is safe as well.
And this is smart. These guys are doing a very good job of controlling vision, and a lot of it is because the wards are dying so much that these teams aren't safe to dive without... and they don't know where the enemy jungler is. You actually saw I Will Dominate look for that one fight and was like, whoops, there's an enemy team here. Man, that was a really dangerous choice. I almost died for that one. And the same is kind of happening here for COG, where they don't know if that dive's going to work. They can't see if the jungler's waiting in the wings, so they just don't try for it. In high-pressure games like this, a lot of teams will say, you know what, if I don't know, I'm not going to try for it.
Right. They got to move with those wards. They got to move with the vision. The trinkets really act as like moving vision. You have to play where you're going to be. They don't last very long, and that dragon going in favor of Dominate. Very nice, smiting that one out. And Curse will again move off a dragon. Will they get anything? Does anything happen from this? COG didn't fight it, so they're just going to defend.
Yeah, this game is deja vu. That happened a second ago.
Yep.
Jumped over the wall of Q, didn't get the smite, flashed away. COG's Curse still up 3-1, and they go back to their own lanes. It's really Curse saying we don't need to rush the issue. It's good patience by them because they do outscale, and in fact, Quas
that works this time.
Exactly, and Quas is continuing to improve over Chris as well. Now, I like Chris's choice to go for like an early Sunfire, build a bit tanky, play more of a persistent damage game, because you just simply can't burst out tanks like Mundo and Shyvana. So Chris is building for a longer fight overall. But really, I don't see Chris actually ever turning that matchup around. Quas will push faster. Quas will probably jump into team fights a little bit more, get into the back lines a little more quickly. He'll be tankier in the battles as well, so he's harder to remove. And Chris is like, well, I got 2v1 and they tried to deny me. I'm just behind.
COD needs to take down this top turret, get a little bit of that minion wave push to the second tier. That's really when they were able to, in the bottom lane on the other side, or top lane I should say, was able to start to make some moves and really spread Curse thin. Right now, they're just getting minion waves in their face and keep pulling attention to Chris in the top lane, which I guess is working for them because they're getting the time, they're biding.
Yeah, they're trying. So Chris Cross apparently, really long song here. Not a lot of notes in it either. It's like, is that like one of the hidden tracks where they're kind of like there's a track 15 after like 30 minutes of silence? Pretty much how these guys are playing it. Cop gonna take the white again. Here we go. It's fine, no big deal here. But yeah, it's COG need to get the machine rolling. That's really what it comes down to. Curse aren't gonna make this happen. They'll pick up dragons because they know they're stronger. COG have the ability to separate people and pick out individuals throughout the mid game, and they're just not finding it. And that's really the difficulty here is. Their only way to get into this game, they're not finding that opening.
Mundo's going to meet up with Dominate, and it looks like Cobb's trying to set up a little bit of a scare in the brush if he's able to do it. Chris and Quas, not very fighty here. Quas is actually taking a bit of damage if they engage, though, so he knows he can't really trade right now with that burst.
Yeah, it's wearing him down a little bit. Once he finally gets Spirit Visage done, he's going to have a lot more health regen, even though he's not life-stealing as a champion. I'm actually going to check to see if he did anything with Runes and Masteries. No lifesteal at all, so it's just really just base health regen. But the Visage HP 5 that it gives you and all that is enough to basically sustain through that. And so Quas is going to become pretty unremovable in the near future in the next couple of thousand gold when he finishes his items. And at that point, it's like, well, you're not going to remove Quas anymore, man. You're going to run out of mana before he runs out of health. All
right, so at this point, Curse needs to kind of kick themselves in the butt and get things going. Their inventory is completely out inventory, if you will. On the other side, they are 5,000 gold ahead. They've taken so many dragons, and after every dragon, they go back to farming. They're not getting anything out of it. And right now, they would straight up win a team fight.
They absolutely would. And when that team fight happens, Cop's going to get super rich. He's at 600 stacked in his passive right now, which means he's going to get 1,250 bonus gold for his first kill.
Yeah.
That's basically most of Last Whisper. Well, he's got that. It's basically a BF sword on his way to
You know what? He's going to buy another one.
He'll just, 2 Last Whispers. I know it says last, but apparently it really means...
One more.
One more? Yeah, that petered out quickly. And really, yeah, like that's... I don't think it's on the mind of COG right here saying, oh man, those Draven stacks, but it's still going to come into play when the fights start happening. Curse wins a fight, they're going to win harder than you would expect.
We'll see what they can do. They don't seem too sure of themselves right now, or just happy with the way the game is going. They are kind of pressuring back. They're up in gold, but they haven't moved past a few turrets that they've taken previously. Dragon comes up in 2 minutes. Maybe they'll force the Dragon fight instead of grab Dragon, because grabbing it kind of takes all the scariness away from it. Having it there is what they need to engage the fight.
Exactly, and for COG here, they need to actually be there in time. They showed up late to Dragon both times, basically. Second time, they weren't even, like, they just had to look for a steal and not even get a team fight. COG needs to know the timer, and they do. They knew the timer both times because they tried to steal and couldn't quite land it. COG can be in position, spend a bunch of time and effort getting ward control and saying, look, we're going to pick the fight, we're going to separate one of you, burst you out. Again, my choice is probably Cop here. He's the only easily killed champion on the Curse lineup. And say, okay, well, no persistent damage. We can continue from here and win the fight with our AD carry.
Actually pretty interesting. Zamfira's gotten himself actually level 16. He's damaging Voyboy pretty well, even with that Seeker's arm guard on, and he has no pen on that armor. Everybody else is somewhat even level throughout the other lanes, but Zamfira doing a good job of keeping up on Voyboy. He's been roaming a little bit, not getting kills, but he was up in CS.
Yeah, and you know, for what it's worth, I would like to see a player like that in the LCS, to have a player like Zamfira get a lot more exposure, because I always like players who do unorthodox things, who bring out champions you don't normally see. I was excited to see yesterday the LeBlanc pick by Shifter. It was like, yeah, and I knew he did it in the Challenger scene. He picked LeBlanc as a counterpick to Ziggs, and I was kind of chanting backstage, like, oh, they first picked Ziggs. All right, is it going to be LeBlanc? And I was like waiting, and I applauded when he grabbed it finally. Yeah, and unfortunately, he got like vastly outplayed. Didn't do anything that game. But the players who, you know, bring back Double AD, we haven't seen it too much in the recent past, and not so much with Sivir really in general. The players who bring in things like AP Lulu mid, it's like, that's cool to see, right? He's forced 2 Kog'Maw bans already. Like, that's cool, that's fun to see. And when you get players like Chris who force Riven bans, and if, you know, Zane King proves to be this god tier Leona that forces bans, suddenly those unorthodox picks start showing up because you can't ban them all out.
I don't like this. COG is going to the back of Dragon to try and take it away as Curse takes it, so it doesn't look like we're actually going to get a fight out of this. Wait, maybe? Maybe?
Yeah, so Chris came down first. That's the important thing. You have a very small window and massive ward coverage, actually, by these guys, of COG being there a little bit first. Now, the problem is there's no turrets to pressure around this area except that bottom lane. So Curse can kind of force COG away because the bottom lane turret can be pressured. COG don't really have that same luxury here.
All right. Ziploc has flash up. 3rd time's a charm. Will he be able to queue in and flash out with the Dragon this time? Nope, Cobb gets it. So they try again from the backside. Will they pressure after this? 4 Dragons. Gold is now 7,000 or 6,000 in the lead as COG crests 40 grand there. And now we're getting a push down mid. And I don't think, yeah, they have a wave.
Yeah, now that they've got double Randuin's Omen and a Thornmail completed, their front line can dive turret successfully. Dominate's going for a Thornmail next, maybe a Sunfire. I would expect Thornmail though. And these guys, like, Curse have finally unlocked the point where they're like, screw it. We don't have initiation, but we have guys who can't dive, so just walk at them until they fall over. They've got a big enough gold lead, 15% right now, that's enough that they can do this now. They can just walk into them with their faces and just like, yeah, just dive.
Zamfira not really letting him close to the turret. Static Shift Sivir making it quite easy to clear out those waves. So with what they have, it's going to actually be hard for Curse. Like you said, they're going to have to go straight under and around those turrets because they're all melee once they get to it.
And that does make it a pretty big difficulty, but they're grouping up towards the mid lane. Like, you're seeing these teams look for fights!
Voyboy gets locked up. There goes the W. He's down in the Sanguine pool. The Zanyas is going to come out completely after. All the ultimates combined into one area, and it looks like COG is losing their HP bars quickly here. Zkank to the back line. A beautiful shot coming from nothing here, but it's Voyboy turning it around. Tides of Blood brings in 2 kills for himself. It's going to be Zane King, still alive with a sliver of health, but he goes down valiantly with a kill under his belt. But it's going to be Curse finally coming out on top. Cop lives with a sliver of health, and Quaz is going to chase down, waste, and bite through the barrier of nothing here.
Beautiful job right there. 5 for 1, and Cop now has 3,800 gold in his inventory, cashing in on the League of Draven right here. And Curse gonna say, all right, let's start getting some objectives for this, and it explodes. 2 turrets going down. Voyboy with Zhonya's and Sanguine Pool. He got such a late ult off, but he burned so many cooldowns on himself. So much of the initiation went onto Voyboy. Solar Flare blocked by a Zhonya's Hourglass. Watch this. So Voy gets jumped on. Now, he doesn't have time to actually cast his ulti. The quarter second would let him die. So he pools first, and he's going to actually zone his immediately afterwards. Still doesn't get to do much, but survive. But when you engage with double AD and go in really hard against double bruiser, like what Curse has, those guys start burning you out, and you saw that there. Quas and Dominate took a whole bunch of damage as the tank line and just worked down the rest of the lineup. I got to commend some of the kiting by the rest of these guys, but 1,446 gold is what Cop has got for that kill. Yeah.
You got it. Talked about it earlier, the double invincibility. They chased down Voidboy thinking they were going to get that kill, and the Zanyas kind of turned the page in the book, and it was a choose your own adventure, and Curse was the one to choose where it went. So 6-2 on the board now, 10,000 gold, and now it's in Curse's mind that they are ahead in the game, and I think they're going to be making a few more moves faster.
Yeah, these guys are absolutely in control. Speaking of making moves, Voidboy picked up Distortion Boots so that he can ghost and flash more often. Beautiful segue. And of course now Baron going down as well because these guys just have control. COG finally took a fight, and it was a disaster for them. They waited too long, and Curse outscaled them. They've got a gigantic Vladimir now on the map. This is Curse playing their comp right and saying, all right, we're going to out-team fight you.
It'll be very interesting to see how COG reacts now. We saw them in a game where they were very far ahead, really dictated the pace of the game. They were in the driver's seat, but now, how can they come back? Or is Curse going to do the same thing? They're trying to bring the medicine that COG gave them in game one. And you know what? They're dishing it out quite well right now. After the Dragons, they've started to aggress.
There we go. So a well-controlled game after the Baron, after the Dragons, all of that stuff. They're like, yes, give me your inhibitor. Now let's reset and take the rest of your base right here. These guys have just picked up all of their items. Of course, the Infinity Edge being done for Cop is just massive. Nothing's going to stand up to him. Ziploc just doesn't have any real tank stats yet. No Randuin's done. Chris still going half and half between tankiness and damage output. And that's going to stand up to Cop's Draven.
And look at them all just pouring out of that Wolf area. They were waiting for a pickoff. Chris wanted to go to the bottom lane to see if they had or could get any vision, which they're starting to put down and regain their jungle. But it's not going to be much. They are completely on a chain for Curse right now, and they have to go wherever they go.
Let's see what these guys can do then. So COG definitely need a pickoff. Problem is there's no reason for Curse to split up in any way. Like Cop, like yeah, getting rid of the minions up at the top side is fine, and it's a bunch of gold. And he has 2 wards that cover the only ways he could get ganked. Unless right down there in the bottom left is a Fnatic brush. He's not going to go near. He's like, they could be there. I've seen this replay before. So the only potential gank that could have happened on Cop, he dodged. So that was a pretty safe push up top. But yeah, Curse can group as 5. And, I mean, they can face tank a turret. Even splitting up is a chance for COG to get a random kill.
This vision is so critical that they just placed down. Knowing that they are, or COG rather, is nowhere near their base. They have like a zip line of wards going right across the front. So no engages are going to happen that Curse doesn't want. They get turrets all across the map with the objectives being down, and they're going to start picking up a little bit of potential gold that's just been sitting there.
Yeah, they really are. So there we go. A little more money, even though Curse don't completely need it. COG, you can just see how afraid they are. They push up mid and say, wait, I see Voidboy. No 1v5, please. Let's just get the heck out of here right now. And it's COG, you know, taking what they can. They're looking to take some, you know, they're getting the red buff, they're getting the minions that they can kind of go for. But COG this entire time, all they've been doing all game is basically being pensive and saying, you know what, I don't think we can do it yet. Now, to be fair, they're waiting at the Baron buff, and that's smart. You don't really want to try to make plays against a team with Baron, and Curse taking a really long time to actually go for a fight here. They're not really using their Baron to do much. But COG, this is
a little bit of tier 2 race here. We're going to get some damage down. Mundo is coming back. The turret's dropped a little bit slower, so they're definitely not going to progress to that inhibitor turret as fast. It's going to be big. Quas uses Dragons. Get it out. And the inhibitor is going to follow after. He is a little scared to go back in.
Cop's still pushing right now. This is a bit of a base race, and COG has to turn around and defend it.
COG, they are going to be able to go into the fight. Very nice Draven ulti coming all the way from Cop down to the left side. And it looks like COG is running for their lives right now. Voidboy is under. The Hemo Plague is down, and he's going to amplify that transfusion damage along with Tides of Blood. Nothing here. The Cleaver to come out. A great flash and a shot back, but will it be enough? He turned and did that. Can he turn and click the red buff on? I don't think it's going to be enough. Cop Nexus turret. Cop second Nexus turret.
Zamfira's coming.
Looks to be going on the Nexus itself. Zamfira is there. Zamfira goes down in the fountain. Cop gets all the reward gold, and Cop takes the game for himself in 37 minutes.
Draven wouldn't have it any other way. The game is all about him. That was a very interesting end to the game. COG looking for that mid lane push at the end there, I think was the right idea. They were losing grasp of the game and said, guys, we might have outpushed them on the map. Let's try to go for it here. Curse made the right call, though. They've made some very smart, immediate decisions in this game overall. Their mid lane fight, the recalls there, and leaving Hop the split push, saying, we think we can hold on to this, go for it, we're ahead. That's always scary, though. You're like, we could lose the game if we fail this base trade, but we win it right now if we do it smart. Curse did it smart.
I was worried that Curse would kind of let that roll out a little too long and not get to where they wanted, let COG come back and just flourish through the mid game. But right after that Baron, they knew what they had. Actually, before the Baron, the fight that they won, they said, oh, we're like 5,000 gold ahead. I think this is going to work. And they finally took it into their own hands. Now, granted, that was a little different of an ending. We have to bring back before, though, that stage experience, the nerves playing in. It was definitely a miscall from COG there.
Yeah, that felt very strange by COG. This game felt weird. They were like, it's almost like they thought they were the stronger team flat out on paper. It was like, let's just not throw. Let's just not throw. We're just better than them. Like, they thought their comp would just win magically at like 35 minutes or something. And we just never saw any moves from the team that like has a bunch of playmaking champions.
Yeah.
And they're like too afraid or nervous or something to actually make plays there. Never found the openings. Even the 2v2 matchup would have been okay. Leona plus Vi together can force kills on pretty much any lane. And they never found it. They never even really looked for it there. They tried twice, once on I Will Dominate, once on Quas. And that was pretty much it. That's all I saw from these guys. And I think that's a little bit too passive from COG. I want to see them go back to the playmaking that won them game one.
And really got to be called out there. Quaz playing amazing in that game. Getting the first blood in a 2v1 situation. And I think almost a bigger hand in what happened there by Cop staying. He stopped them from taking that inhibitor. He said, fight me, not the inhibitor. They had how many people attacking second tier and then inhibitor, and Cop was able to take everything as one man. So there's a great distraction by Quaz on that push. Yeah,
very smart choice right there by Quas and the rest of Curse to say, you know what, 4v5, we might lose the fight, but we will outpush you. We'll use our bodies to gum up the works. And you know, the COG machine slowed down. It really did. They didn't take the base down. Well played, Curse.
See if they can re-grease the gears for next game. We got to take a quick break, but when we return, everything's tied up at 1 win apiece. Both teams look to take a lead with a Game 3 win.